Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. A quick question to make sure you can all hear me. If a couple of people could just say yes that you can hear us, that would be wonderful, and then we'll get going. Perfect, thank you for that. So thank you for joining us today. We've got a student panel today with two MBA students who sadly are finishing up this week. It's the last week of the 19-20 MBA classes. No, sorry, 18-19 MBA class. I'm getting ahead of myself. So we've got Aman and Pratik here today joining us. So I'll get them to introduce themselves and they'll give us a bit of a background about their work experience and what they're doing before the MBA, and then talk through their time here on the program the last year or so, and then they'll give a little bit of advice, and then we'll open up for questions from all of you. So to kick things off, do you guys want to talk a bit about your background before coming here?
Okay. So I'll get started. Hi, my name is Aman. So I completed my undergrad from India. I got a degree in chemical engineering and economics. So and there might be a lot of candidates on the webinar who come from a very non-traditional business background, and I think if you have any questions going forward, I can probably answer those for you, because I also come from a non-traditional background. I started my career in analytics and data science. I worked there for 3 years, and then I moved to EY as a consultant. I was working in India in Bangalore office for almost 6 months, and then I spent 1 year in New York. And after that, I came back to India and joined my family business, where we work with the Indian government on public health projects. And while working on my family business, getting to interact with so many different functions in the business, I realized the need that I need to probably get a more holistic understanding of how the business really works and how to really interact with different functions within my own business, and I need to really improve my understanding of it. And that's the reason I decided to pursue my MBA.
Wonderful, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Pratik. I'm from Sydney, Australia, as you can probably tell from my accent. I also have a non-traditional background as well coming into the MBA. I have a background in healthcare technology. So I did a Bachelor of Biomedical Engineering at the University of Sydney. From that, I moved into a clinical specialist role at St. Jude Medical. So that involves looking at cardiac products that deal with arrhythmia and cardiac electrical disorders. I then moved into more sales and marketing functions after that. So that includes product manager roles, sales manager roles, and I was with them for my entire working career, so 8.5 years. The company got acquired by Abbott. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Abbott, the large healthcare multinational company. That happened in 2017, and that's when I decided it would be a good time as well to, take a year off, sharpen my toolkit, work on those business skills, and also, have a year where I can meet some amazing people and sort of push myself outside of my comfort zone, which is what led me to the Oxford MBA.
Cool. So that's a nice segue, I guess, into my next question, which was going to be why Oxford, why the MBA? So yeah, I mean, you've just touched on it a tiny bit, but if you maybe want to talk through a little bit of your decision process, and maybe firstly why the MBA at this point in your career, and then why you ended up choosing Side Business School.
Yeah. Okay. So as I mentioned previously also, once I moved into my family business and started interacting with different functions in the business, like interacting with the operations team, interacting with the sales team, and then the accounting department, I sort of realized that since I come from a very non-traditional background, I really don't have a deep understanding of how to manage these different things. I felt that I need to go into a program where I can learn all these things and apply it into my family business. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to do an MBA. And I was basically trying to fast track my learning, and that's why I was more keen on applying for a 1-year MBA program. So being here at Said, getting to learn so much about finance, operations, marketing, strategy, I feel that it has really equipped me to take all these learnings back to my family business. I'll be moving back to India next week, and then I'll be joining back my family business, and I'm hoping that now I can maybe able to add more value to my family business than what I was doing earlier.
Thank you.
For me, the reason why I chose the MBA is if you look at the healthcare industry specifically, you notice that particularly with medical devices, a lot of the innovation that was happening was very incremental. Getting a pacemaker to last a year or so longer with battery life, and there were really sort of minor improvements. And all the sort of innovation and disruption was happening outside of healthcare to disrupt healthcare. So one of the reasons why I decided to do an MBA was also to learn how to, I knew how to disrupt sort of the technology that's going on. I had a few ideas, but I didn't have much experience in learning how to disrupt different business models. And that's one of the reasons why I chose to pursue the MBA, is to really learn and try and figure out, what are the best ways to implement all this innovation, all this change, and all this sort of new technology in what can be considered to be, an industry which is ripe for disruption.
Wonderful, thank you. I've just had a few people say they can't hear anything. Has the sound stopped? Hopefully I'm not talking to no one. Can people hear? Can people still hear? Sorry about that. Maybe someone's just got their, oh no, you can still hear. Okay, great. Someone might have their headphones muted. I'll just quickly respond to them.
Well, should we start with why Oxford?
Yeah, I think so. That would be great. Yeah.
So you want to start on?
Okay. So yeah, when I was deciding what schools I need to apply to, 1 year was definitely my. I wanted to apply only to a 1 year MBA program, and I think like that really narrows down the list. But the reason I decided to come to Oxford because, and this has always been a consideration for me, that I wanted to be in the business school, but also be a part of a wider university, because a lot of learning not only happens within the business school, but outside the classroom. And I think Oxford is I can't think of any other university where you can have so much outside the class learning as Oxford, because there are so many avenues where you get to interact with the wider Oxford community, and I think those are very well facilitated by the culture which exists here at Oxford. So you can go out for formal dinners. There are balls organized by different colleges throughout the year, and those are, I think, perfect platforms where you get to meet people who are studying such incredible things, and you can take all those learnings and apply it in the business context as well. So and then I think the the kind of pedigree which the Oxford brand name carries is also, I think, going to be really helpful for me in the future. So yeah, I think those were some of the reasons why I chose to come to Oxford.
For me, it was sort of along the same lines and a little bit more. So I've always been fascinated with the States and some of the MBA programs in the US. One thing I found as well, as I'm sort of later on in my career, I'm 31 years old, so I'm sort of over the average age of the MBA by a couple of years. So when that happens, you get some practical realities of life is the more and more you spend in education, the more the opportunity cost. So that's why I was sort of more drawn to the 1 year MBA programs as opposed to the 2 year MBA programs, because whether you've completed, say for example, an Oxford MBA and you're spending a year in the workforce, you're learning a lot in that year compared to another year in an MBA. So that's what led me sort of towards the UK and European MBAs. And between them, I was looking at Oxford, Cambridge, INSEAD, and IE. They were the 4 that I applied for. And the Oxford MBA stood out from the start for a couple of reasons. Firstly, as I mentioned as well, the Oxford pedigree and the brand name, it's fantastic. And the second thing was, the reason why I was doing MBA was not only to specifically learn inside the classroom, but also looking at learning within a wider community outside of the classroom. One thing I'm really happy about in terms of my experience, in terms of what I've done, is I've gone on every single student trek throughout the MBA program. And the amount you'll learn outside the classroom, when you're outside even the Oxford bubble with the Oxford MBA community, is amazing. You learn in leaps and bounds compared to just in a traditional classroom environment. And that's the great thing about the Oxford MBA. It really allows you to feel you can really tailor the MBA to what you want. And the staff and the community here are all really, really helpful and really supportive in terms of all of our individual journeys. And the last thing was as well, I want to sort of transition to the application process. And that's where I think Oxford really stands out compared to the other schools I mentioned, also the other schools in the States, because you hear a lot of sort of marketing, jargon, everything else saying they look at applications holistically, but from applying to the 4 schools that I mentioned, Oxford truly does look at your application holistically. I didn't have the best of GMAT scores, but I found that the rest of the components of my application were quite strong. And when I spoke to some of the admissions team that happened to be in Australia at that time, they reassured me that my application would be looked at holistically. And now I'm here, so yeah, I guess that's proven point as well. The GMAT isn't the be all and end all, and Oxford really does look at a person holistically. And I think that's why the community and all our classmates, come from really amazing and different and open-minded backgrounds and perspectives.
So yeah, on top of that, I would like to add 2 more things very quickly. One thing is that a lot of business schools talk about diversity in their class, and the biggest difference I've noticed between the schools in the States and Oxford, that the diversity there means that like 46% of the class is international, but the diversity for us means 92 or 93% of the class is international. And this is something which our professors emphasize all the time, that you learn a lot in the class, but you learn even more with your classmates, and people are coming from such diverse backgrounds from all over the world, that the learning experience here, I think, is cannot be matched with anything else. And the second thing is that the school really pays attention on social impact and entrepreneurship. So when I came to Oxford, I knew that I have to go back to my family business, and that was the only consideration I had. But once I got here, I got involved in what was happening around entrepreneurship. I did my entrepreneurship project. Now, as of now, I have an idea. I'm planning to go and implement it along with my family business, and I think that happened only because I got exposed to so many things here at Oxford.
Yeah, I'd just like to elaborate on one of Aman's points that he made. I think it was really good. Is that in terms of sort of learning within the Oxford community and the weight that the Oxford brand name carries, and that translates into amazing access to so many different sort of successful people in their own right around the world. So I'll give you a couple of examples. One thing being an Oxford student is you are eligible to be part of the Oxford Union, and the Oxford Union hosts a whole bunch of speakers. You would have seen. You can Google them. They have a YouTube channel. You can look at all the speakers. Any single person in the audience, every single person in the audience rather, is a Oxford University student, whether it's undergrad, postgrad, DPhil, whatever it is, and you have access to all those speakers. And it's not just sitting there listening to them speak. Afterwards, they come out, they interact with the students. So to give you a couple of examples, we've had everyone from Tony Hawk speak to us to Dave Chappelle and Jon Stewart about I guess some politically charged subjects such as political correctness and comedy in the modern era and how that works, and how that's being portrayed by the media and different things like that. So you can really sink your teeth in the experience as much as you want
to. Wonderful. I guess the next thing that might be nice to talk about is what you found the most surprising here. So perhaps it could be surprising in a good way, or it can be surprising in a bad way. It could have been something you found challenging, or something you were pleasantly surprised by when you got here. Maybe anything that really has stood out to you over the last year.
I think the one thing which pleasantly surprised me, and I think Pratik has already mentioned it, that like once I got my edit, I was really excited, but then I just got very busy with so many things, because it's a 1-year course. It's really fast paced. So the school expects you to like do a little bit prep before you actually come on campus. So you don't really get time to embrace that you're actually studying at Oxford, which was a pretty big deal for me. But once you're here and you see so many great people, so many great leaders coming from all over the world are coming to Oxford to actually talk to you, and you actually have access to them, I think that's a very special feeling. I remember I attended this debate at Oxford Union, which was about this house has no confidence in Modi's government. And the speakers who were there on the floor are some of the people I've just seen on TV so far. And after the debate was over, I actually went up to them, had like a small chat. And I think, yeah, that is something which is really special. And I didn't expect that I'll ever be able to do that. I remember I went to Blow School of Government, and I was sitting there with the ex-chief minister of Maharashtra inside a small seminar room, just having like casual chit chat as if I'm talking to a friend. I don't think you can ever do that anywhere outside Oxford. So yeah, I think that was pretty special for me.
I think that's a good point, right? Because it gives us more access to, leaders from our countries that we normally wouldn't get in our countries. Like, for example, we had two prime ministers come and speak as our Black school government, Tony Abbott as well and Malcolm Turnbull. I would not have had an opportunity to meet them if I was in Sydney. We really hard, you have to register events, you wouldn't get that access. So yeah, I'd like to emphasize that point as well. It's a really great point. And would you say, that you're like the feeling of like studying at Oxford is sinking in now that we're approaching sort of the final week of the MBA?
I think while you're here, you're surrounded by so many amazing people that you don't take opportunity to realize that you yourself have something special in you. And I think you'll realize that more once you leave Oxford and you actually go back to the real life. And then when you interact with people around you, when you're working somewhere or let's say you're doing your own business, and when you recognize yourself as an Oxford alumni, I think that's when you really realize that how special you are, and people will value you a lot. And it already happens. Like when I go back to India and I tell people that I'm studying in Oxford, people look at you in a very different way. So yeah.
Yeah, you certainly have to pinch yourselves when you go to some of the old college dinners. So I'm from Australia, right? So Australia was discovered by Western settlers in the 17th century. There's some colleges that are 500 years older than when that was discovered. So that just really blows you away to know that this dining hall you're sitting at, was built before,
Yeah.
I guess the Western settlers discovered Australia. That's actually quite special.
Yeah.
For me, I'd say the most surprising thing, I expected it, but it's still surprising, which is why I want to highlight it, is the people in the cohort. Spending time with my classmates is really one of the key reasons why I chose the Oxford MBA, and it's just blown me away. The challenging thing I'd say to that as well, so leading into that point, is it is 1 year, it is intense. Make sure you come in with a game plan. So, if you, are admitted, if you're looking to apply, have a look at how the course is structured, have a look at what you want to prioritize, because a couple of things, time pressures are real. You'll have so many things you want to do, and you have to prioritize them. And you go to one event and you'll be blown away, it's magical, then you check your social media feeds and there's another equally magical event happening somewhere else. And so FOMO is definitely real, and you just have the best way to manage that is to come in with sort of a plan of attack to make sure you don't spread yourself too thin. So you want to give yourself time to have those meaningful conversations with people in the Oxford community, whether it be your cohort or outside of the wider university. You don't want to just have hi hello chats. You want to try and prioritize that. Let's sit down with this person. Let's grab a beer, grab a coffee, and let's really get to know them for an hour or so.
Really nice. I think one thing you both kind of mentioned colleges here and there. I think that's one thing in particular that before you actually come to Oxford, the whole concept of the colleges is a little bit foggy, and the best you can try and explain it to people is like Hogwarts houses, which is.
I was about to use the same example because
Yeah.
although the Hogwarts houses are inspired from the Oxford colleges, but I think if I have to really explain Oxford colleges to somebody, I actually take that reference that if you remember Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin, that is something similar here. Like the colleges are something similar to what you've seen in Hogwarts, in Harry Potter, and yeah, so colleges are really like responsible for your social life and everything. Like they basically facilitate a lot of social activities, and the business school or any other school is responsible only for your academic life. I think that's the best I can do to provide some distinction between the two.
I think that's really good. So Oxford University is a union of 38 colleges. Now those colleges vary in age from I think 1200, 1100 AD to 2008, which is the college we're from, which is the college that houses the most MBAs. So the way it works is, during your whole sort of MBA academic life, as Aman says, all your classes, everything else will be done through Said Business School. But in order to be a member of the Oxford University, you have to be a member of a college. Every student at the University of Oxford is a member of a college. And what that means is that's essentially your sort of social networking touch point with the university is all done through your college. So there's a couple of different sort of questions you usually get. Well, okay, you're in colleges, what does that mean? Does that mean you're going to live separately from your MBA? So how does that sort of work? So predominantly because these colleges have so much history and they were formed such a long time ago, the majority of postgrads don't actually stay in your college, you usually stay outside at some accommodation that your college helps you to procure or to reserve. And what usually happens is the younger colleges usually take more MBA students, and the older colleges usually take 2 to 4 MBA students. Now that doesn't mean that if you're a member of an older college, you're not going to get your fair share of access to your classmates or the MBA. That's absolutely not true. Like regardless of which college you're in, you will be equally a part of the MBA experience. That doesn't take anything away from it. And that was definitely one of my considerations. The reason why I chose Green Templeton College, which is the youngest college, as I said, formed in 2008, was because it accepted the most number of MBAs, I think 55 to 60. And my personal reason for that was the alumni network and events from your colleges. I can be more involved in them because they're going to have sort of more people with similar interests rather than being mixed with undergrads and postgrads. But if you want colleges that are steeped in history and have some really successful and high profile alumnus, you can do that as well. So for example, Balliol and Trinity, I think they've between both of them, they've produced 10 prime ministers in the UK, which is absolutely amazing. So imagine those alumni events as well when you come back to that. So it really comes down to depending what sort of experience and interaction with the wider Oxford University you want. But in terms of the MBA, you'll end up in the same classroom as your classmates, regardless of what college you're in. And just because you're in one college doesn't mean you miss out on the experience of another college, because the great thing about having such a relatively large and diverse class size means that we're always at each other's colleges for dinners and everything else, and you can access each of the college lawn and bars and that sort of stuff. So you're not really missing out because you're part of a wider MBA cohort. So it really depends on what you want. You can go for sort of young and historical and knowing that that's a sort of network you're going to have, or you can go for something more younger, more sort of business MBA focused, and knowing that your alumni connection will be in that sort of direction.
I think there's a couple of questions coming through about careers. Do you guys maybe want to talk about how the kind of career development centre plays out across the year, and industry events, employer events that happen at the school, or maybe what the career support looks like throughout the year? I know it's different for you, obviously, going back to the family business, but maybe just the events that they have on school.
Sure. So I did have my fair share of interaction with the careers team. So apart from organizing a lot of events where like companies are coming over and giving presentations. So initially at the beginning of the year, to be honest, I was riding that wave of consulting where everybody's like, okay, I want to try for consulting. And I think I also did that for a bit before coming back to my senses. And I think that I was going through that FOMO phase initially, that no, I want to do this because everybody else is doing it. But I came back to the realization that no, I should be focusing on entrepreneurship, and that's what I decided before I came here. So I attended presentations to BCG, McKinsey, and I think like those were very well organized. The partners from the London office came in. We had a proper presentation. They also gave us like a live example of a case the company did. And after that, you have drinks where you can like go and meet them and personally interact with them. And from there, you can take the conversation forward. You can go to London, connect with them on LinkedIn. And I think that really provides the platform to facilitate that relationship building, which otherwise would be very difficult. So although I'm giving the example for consulting, the school does that for finance. They do that for social impact, for global industries. So it's a very well-rounded approach. And it's just not that, but they also help you improve your hard skill and soft skills. So the school is organizing a lot of events where you can improve your skills on Excel, SQL, which are like really relevant in today's world, especially when data is being used more and more by industry. So you are learning a lot in the class, but also learning a lot with all the sessions which are organized by the careers team, because those are the skills which are really relevant in the industry today. I remember attending sessions on leadership, how you can ace a marketing case interview. So yeah, those are some of the very niche things which you can't really cover in the class, but the careers team will make sure that you are well versed with these things, so that when you get into an interview, you can perform well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I like to also link that to point I mentioned previously as well, is make sure you come into the MBA with a game plan. Time management is key and is crucial to getting the most out of a 1-year MBA program, because 1 year flies by. I still remember launching it as if it was yesterday. Now, what that means from careers is going back to Aman's example, say for consulting. It's definitely true. We had a lot of people in our class sort of, what happens with consulting is a lot of those programs sort of start earlier in terms of the admissions process for that, the application process for the consulting jobs. But you also really need to have to be 100% sure sort of, or try and figure out what you want to do. So say, for example, if you have a social impact background and a social impact interest, and you're set on that's where you want to go post MBA. Don't try and get caught up with people have already got consulting jobs, they're applying there and things like that, because remember, it all comes at an opportunity cost. So make sure you put your time and effort and energy into what your interests are, and network and sort of focus on that sort of avenue, because that's really important. Because if you spend a whole bunch of time focusing on consulting cases just to make sure, I sort of want a job, people want to have the nice brand names, but if that's not what you really want, potential employers can figure that out in an interview. Like your true self won't come forward. So be true to yourself, be honest, and back your interest. Oxford backs your interest. That's why you're gonna come here. So believe in yourself as well. I think that's really important, and stick to your game plan. And having said that as well, the Career Center are awesome. So they're going to touch base with you from the start, straight away at launch. They're going to introduce themselves. They're going to break down how their structure and everything else. As I mentioned, they have different verticals. So they have people specializing in global industries, social impact, entrepreneurship, as well as consulting and finance, and so on and so forth. So make sure you introduce yourselves to those people sort of in your interest verticals. And also, they'll be your springboard as well to contact different alumni throughout the world, which are super helpful. And I would mention as well, they host a lot of events throughout the year. And having said that as well, don't expect to come into, and this is true for any MBA program, don't expect to come into an MBA program and be spoon-fed a job or opportunities. That for certain will not happen. You have to be proactive. You have to, take the time and effort to really pursue your interests in career opportunities. And the whole, not only the Career Center, but the whole business school network is here to guide you and support you along the way.
Yeah, just to add on top of what Pratik said, I think one thing which he mentioned correctly is that don't expect to be spoon-fed. The careers team will do everything possible to equip you with the right tools which are required to get an interview and how to perform really well in their interview. But yeah, you can't expect them that like they will. It's not going to be a cozy affair, and that's true for any business school. So just to share my example, when I applied in that like wave of consulting, I heard a couple of people who got interview calls. They were actually paired up with an actual consultant who's working in either BCG or McKinsey, and they were like practicing real life cases with those people, and the career centers facilitated that. So when you're actually practicing or taking inputs from a person who's actually working in that field, that really helps you understand that what kind of things you can expect in an interview, and that is really helpful. And second thing is that patience is really the key. And I think this was told to me by seniors from previous year, and I think I can pass down the same information that when you come here, consulting firms, they usually recruit in a very structured manner. So those are the first companies you'll see showing up on campus for their presentations. But that doesn't mean that other companies are not recruiting. It's just that their recruitment cycle probably starts a little later than consulting firms. So if you're really focused on finding a job in finance or social impact, I think it's important that you should take your time, keep preparing yourself, but don't jump into consulting just because everybody else is doing it, because your goals might be very different from others.
Yeah, that's definitely so true. So true, because as much as I see, you should come with a game plan and direction, and even if you're not sure sort of where you want to end up in your career, you can still contact the careers department, and they have different sort of career and life coaches and mentors who will help you figure out that. So if you're, say, tossing up between social impact and say you're from a finance background and you don't know where you want to go, you can speak to people about that, and they'll give you, they'll help guide you in the direction, help you figure that out as well. And the second thing is, I was completely right, patience. You have to trust the journey. You have to trust that, this is a great investment and will work out, because it will. What you don't want happening is, to be sort of impatient, be like, oh my God, I don't have a job yet, I need a job, because that sort of frustration and negative energy will also come across in the interview process. So trust the journey, trust that this is a world-leading MBA program, because it is, and it's an amazing year, and it will definitely pay off for sure.
Lovely. So we're getting quite a few questions. There's a couple of questions around Brexit. So I'm just going to say, unfortunately, we don't know. We're definitely not experts on Brexit. I think if we were, we could probably make a lot of money somewhere. In terms of coming to study as a student who's from another country, you'll be on a student visa, so there shouldn't be too many complications. In terms of getting a job after the MBA in the UK, unfortunately, we just don't know. We don't know what deals there'll be, what arrangements there'll be. I don't know if it'll be easier or harder for European students or Commonwealth students. We don't know, unfortunately. So rather than give you advice that could be wrong, we'll just give you no advice on Brexit. I'm really sorry about that. Do you guys want to talk through maybe your interview process and how that was? Because you obviously probably both would have applied from effectively the other side of the world. I'm not sure if either of you came for interviews, or did you do them via Skype?
No, I interviewed in person in Delhi.
Oh, wonderful.
But
Okay,
I came for the experience weekend.
Great. Well, yeah, if you wouldn't mind maybe just chatting over the interview process, that would be really helpful. If you can remember it. It would have been a little while ago now.
I know it's been like more than a year now, but I do remember a little bit of it. My interview is conducted by Charlotte. And so I think the most surprising, and I think like it was surprising in a good way, not a bad way, that when I went into the interview process, I was really stressed out because I had given a couple of interviews before also, and my experience in those interviews was not really good. But when I entered into the interview and the interview started, it felt like a conversation and not really like a Q&A session. So Charlotte was not really trying to put me in a spot where I'm like really like being questioned that how you did this, how you did that. No, that was not it. Like what I realized was that I could talk about myself only in those 2,000 or 3,000 words. But when Charlotte is sitting in front of me and she has like 30, 40 minutes with me, she's really trying to understand my story, that where I came from, what are my motivations, what I really want to do in life. And you're basically expanding on what you wrote in your essays. And I think that's where like the Saeed really stood out from all the other schools, because my interview experience, when I left that room after 40 minutes, trust me, I was not stressed out. I was actually really, really happy that like I had a very nice conversation with Charlotte, and and that actually gave me confidence that I think I'll probably get into Saeed, because it was such a nice conversation.
It's really nice to hear.
Definitely gonna echo those thoughts. My first touch point with the Saeed admissions was with Amy Major. She happened to be in Sydney, Australia, for a conference, and this is just before I applied. And when it came to, I talked earlier about the holistic admissions process and stuff. She was the one that really gave me the confidence to apply and to really look into the Oxford MBA. And she showed, we had a great discussion about, all the different factors that they take into consideration for the application process. So then I got an interview in the following February, I think, and I was very fortunate again because I had my interview in person because Charlene, you happened to be in Sydney as well for a admissions event. So it was really great to have my interview in person and completely echo Aman's thoughts as well. I interviewed, as I said, with Cambridge, IE, and INSEAD. And the biggest difference between Oxford and I guess the rest of them as well as my interview was conversation. It was all about they just want to get to know you. That's essentially it's a conversation about getting to know you. And I found that some of the other schools was more about trying to either, ask a question, this typical job interview, trying to catch you out with something. The Oxford interview process is absolutely not like that. It's more just getting to know you. There's no right or wrong answers. Just go in there, be yourself. And like I left with a smile on my face because I just thought that was a really pleasant chat. I had no idea how it would go. I had no idea whether I'd, be successful or not. All I knew is that I had a great conversation. Yeah.
Oh, that's really lovely to hear. So that's probably quite rare that both of you have actually done in-person interviews. Obviously, we don't expect everyone to travel to Oxford for their interview, every stage we try and have a couple of, I guess, global hubs for interviews. So obviously you both happen to have one in your hometowns, which is incredible. If you can't make it to either Oxford for your interview or there is not one nearby that you can attend, we do offer Skype interviews, and we don't view them differently. You know, if you interview in person or you interview in Skype, we will completely, you know, judge you exactly the same as we would, judge is the wrong word, we would assess your application exactly the same via one method as we would the other. So don't feel, oh my gosh, I have to get on a plane and go to Oxford to have have the best chance of getting in. If you're amazing on Skype, that'll shine through, and if you're amazing in person, that'll shine through. So don't stress about getting here in person. It's great that you interviewed with a few other schools, because quite a few people are asking what the difference is between this program and other UK programs or others in the States, or the difference between us and Judge. I think obviously our students can comment on how different maybe their research was, or their feelings or vibes or experiences at events, or like you said, at interviews, but at the end of the day, no one's done an MBA in both places. So do remember, these guys haven't done a year at Judge and then a year here to compare it. They've only done the Oxford MBA, so there's only so much they can speak about the comparisons, because they haven't lived and breathed it like they have this last year here in Oxford. But I guess, yeah, if you guys have any other thoughts on how the Oxford MBA is different to other MBAs in the UK that you could share. Perhaps you have friends there doing them at the moment.
Sure.
Or...
So of the 4 schools I talked about, maybe I'll talk about how sort of the Oxbridge environment. So both Oxford and Cambridge differ from other programs such as IE and INSEAD and all the other European MBAs. Is as much as there's a rivalry between Oxford and Cambridge, there's also a whole lot of unity and friendship. So before I actually started the MBA, I went on the Oxbridge trek to Singapore. It's easy to get in there from Sydney. So it's essentially 15 Cambridge MBAs in the region, 15 Oxford MBAs in the region, and you go and you visit all these different companies, Google, Apple, Facebook, so on and so forth. And those friends from that trek, we met 3 or 4 times during the year. So that unity is definitely there, and that's what really stands out, is sort of that emphasis on, getting to know each other, your classmates, your peers, leveraging all of that, and the emphasis on that and the holistic experience. One of the slight differences I found between sort of Oxford and Cambridge, and I'm not saying this is either right or wrong, is Cambridge places a slightly higher emphasis on the GMAT score from the alums and my friends that I talk to. I'm not saying that's a negative thing. I'm not saying that's a positive thing. It's just a slight difference that I know of. In terms of the differences between INSEAD and IE and Oxford, well, I had a lot of friends from Sydney go to INSEAD. Now, the difference with INSEAD and Oxford, and the main difference, and this is what makes Cambridge and Oxford stand out as well, is that INSEAD have a quarterly rolling admission process. So every quarter, there's essentially a new cohort coming in. So you won't have that unity that we've had in our class, because we go through every subject, every term together. We have people rolling in and out depending on what subjects they finished. The other difference as well, and the reason why I chose Oxford over INSEAD, was INSEAD has 2 campuses. So they have one in Fontainebleau and one in Singapore. So with Oxford, you're in one community and you're in one campus, and it really boils down to what you prefer. Do you want to be in changing environments, and if that's something that you enjoy and love, then that's fine. What Oxford offers is, a really tight-knit community and tight-knit cohort. So that was sort of my experience.
I think I can probably give my example and compare my experience between Oxford and LBS. So the reason I applied to LBS because I know that they have this option of graduating in 15 months. So I was kind of gunning for that. But the biggest differentiator from me, and which I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, that LBS is just a standalone business school, and your learning is very restrictive. And I didn't want that. I wanted to be a part of the university, because and this thing became so important for me, because when I was working in the US, I did visit a couple of business schools, and I realized that how important it is to be a part of the university, because your learning cannot be restricted only in one school. Like, it's everywhere. It's up to you how much you want to learn. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I was more keen on coming to Oxford rather than LBS. The second is that I felt like Oxford, with their focus on entrepreneurship, was definitely something which was more interesting for me because I want to want to go back to my family business and I plan to start my own business. And LBS was more focused on more traditional roles. So I thought like maybe I will not be able to get that kind of value from LBS MBA, which I can get from the Oxford MBA.
One thing I'll say as well is don't feel under any sort of pressure to try and make the right decision, because there is no right decision. And particularly with MBAs, you're part of a global community, and I can't emphasize that enough. It's not a really tribalistic thing where you go to sort of one university and you're always competing with the other. It doesn't work that way. Like we've had mixes with Cambridge, we've had mixes with LBS, where student organized mixes, and everyone's really sort of open and willing to help out. And on top of that as well, one of the best global sort of MBA mixer events is the MBATs, the MBA tournament, also known as the MBA Olympics. Now that's a super inclusive sort of 1 week long or weekend long tournament where you compete in all these different sports. And when I mean super inclusive, I really mean that, because it's not just your typical physical sports. You have your rugby, you have your running, you have all that. But you also have other sports as well, such as dance. You have baton, you have Counter-Strike as well. So it's designed to make everyone inclusive. And our whole class, so one of the biggest, positives of the MBATs was not only that we won for 30 in a row, so shout out to our class, but also it was a great way to network with MBA students from all across the globe. And that's one of the positive things. So, don't put yourself under pressure to think that you have to make the right decision. I think doing an MBA is the big decision, deciding to do that. And sort of these top schools are all good. They're all good. Like there's no bad and there's good or anything like that. So it's all positive, and just try and make the best decision for you and your circumstances.
I think like what just Pratik said, that I think that healthy rivalry only exists when you're in the school, and when you leave the school, you leave all that behind, and then you become a part of this global MBA community where I think people are like super helpful. So I know that when I go back to India, there will be so many MBAs from Cambridge, LBS, NCR, and I can always reach out to them because at a certain level we can connect with each other and we can be helpful to each other. So yeah, I mean, don't really think that like one is better than the other. I think everybody at the end of the day is like the same in my opinion.
Yeah, and also we're very, just to touch on that sort of point. When we started the MBA, my LinkedIn started blowing up with a lot of people, asking prospective applicants to all these schools, asking me for advice, why I chose the MBA. And I took the time to respond to as many of them as I could. And I took calls from people who'd accepted LBS offer, Cambridge offer, in terms of what to expect. So you're all part of a global community. Make sure you go in with that open mind.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yes.
Your LinkedIn's going to be inundated
now.
So I guess you've touched on it being a very intense year, and a few people have asked about electives, about courses, about internships. We've got about 10 minutes or so left, so if anyone wants to send through more questions, please do now, and then we can try and combine a few that are similar. But so I guess neither of you did internships in the summer. You did an internship.
I am doing an internship.
You're doing one right now. Why are you here? It's Monday.
I was just working on my internship work before the call started.
Great. Well, if you wouldn't mind maybe touching on the internship process,
Sure.
how that came about, everything, and then also we do offer international electives. So I know you did the digital marketing one in New York.
So
but
both
you
of us
did
went for that.
perfect.
Yeah.
So maybe if you touch on that as well. And Pratik actually put together a really awesome blog about his time on the digital marketing elective. So what I'll do, I'll send around this recording afterwards, and I'll include a link to the blog because it's really lovely. It's a nice snapshot of your 2 weeks in New York. So yeah, if you want to maybe touch on the elective and then the internship process.
Sure. So let me start with the international elective, and so the international elective was around digital transformation in media and advertising, and it was happening in New York. So I was really keen on doing that because I mean that is one of the things I struggled with when I was working in my family business, because like my dad started the company and then everything is like done very conservatively and in a very primitive fashion. I wanted to bring that digital transformation into my own family business, which I intend to do after I go back. And I feel that I can learn a lot from all the companies which are there on the panel. So we visited New York Times, we visited the Facebook office, we visited Oblivion Matter, Kantar, like these amazing firms who are actually working with so many clients and helping them with that digital transformation and learning about those concepts from the industry players is like a very unique experience. And I think what was more fascinating for me was that the elective was led by Professor Andrew Stephens, who also considered a marketing guru. So I wanted to like learn from him as well because I was not sure whether I could take his elective in Trinity or not. So I wanted to utilize this opportunity of like meeting him and learning more from him. Secondly, so my internship actually was not didn't happen in a structured manner. A lot of people actually go through a structured process of getting an internship. And this is where like the power of networking and MBA comes into picture. So I was just chatting with one of my classmates who is also a part of Oxford Seed Fund, and she mentioned that one of the companies they're investing in, they're actually looking for an intern. And I was actually looking for a company which is an early stage startup, like a very small team, probably 5 to 10 people. And she connected me with that person, and then I had a coffee chat with him. And yeah, during that chat, we just finalized that yeah, okay, I'll be working with him, and I just started working with it. And I was looking for something early stage, but it's only two of us right now trying to build this company. So I'm helping him with building his investment deck, his business plan, the financial model, and everything. Um, and it's been a really great experience, and was exactly what I was looking for. So everybody can have their own different expectations of what they want from their internship, but I wanted to work with a startup, and I think I got that because yeah, my classmate was really helpful. She guided me to that person, and the past 2 months have been amazing. So yeah, that was my experience.
Yeah, so my approach to choosing to do summer electives instead of the internship was back to my original point in terms of I came in with a game plan for the MBA, and that was to enable as much peer-to-peer learning as possible, which is why I chose the summer electives, but also the fact that in terms of the job application process, I came in with a game plan of only focusing on experienced hire positions. Because as I said, I'm 31, so I was a bit older, sort of come from a more experienced perspective into the MBA. So for me, in terms of my career path, I was really looking at sort of direct hire positions, and not even the MBA grad positions sort of post MBA. So that was my focus. So for me, my personal opinion was I didn't think an internship sort of really fit in with that original game plan, which is why I chose to do the summer electives. And the equally is great. Again, there's no right or wrong decision here. It depends on what works for you, and you really gotta sort of back that decision and just go with it. In terms of the international electives, I gotta say, the digital marketing elective in New York was absolutely fascinating. So shout out to fellow Aussie Professor Andrew Stevens and Rhonda Haiti as well. They put together a really great program and gave us some amazing access to world-leading companies, including Facebook, FCB, Cantar, L'Oreal, and it was really great because it was also organized with all the alum who are working in these companies. Also, we really got to hear from them. We also got to hear from alum from both the executive MBA and also the normal Oxford MBA who are living in New York. So it opened our eyes to the fact that there are all these communities of Oxford side business school alumni all over the world in all the major cities that you can contact post MBA. So from that sense, it was great. And also, again, learning with your peers outside of sort of that classroom and Oxford bubble is fascinating. Like some of my closest friends now in the Oxford MBA actually come from that New York collective. Aman's one of them as well. And because you really get to spend quality time with people, sort of not in a rushed or in a structured environment. And that's the great thing of what the international electives can offer.
Wonderful, thank you guys. I think we've covered most of the questions. I appreciate there are a couple of you who we haven't really covered your questions, but yours are quite specific to your unique age and experience and post-MBA, I guess, goals or plans. So what I might do is I might reply to you offline if that's okay, because everyone's situation is different. So rather than try and explain, tailored advice just for you, I think a bit more of a comprehensive response separately would be better. There's one lovely question which I think would be nice to end on is, can you tell us about a particular memorable class or professor that you've had? Maybe who was your favorite, what was your best class or elective, or who was your favorite lecturer or professor?
I'm scared that this webinar is going to go on record. And I don't want to take one name because there are so many of them. And yeah, it's a difficult question. And I would like to apologize to all the other professors for doing this, but I think my experience with Professor Mark Sepan was truly amazing. I attended both of his lectures, which he takes. One is the class on global strategy, the other class on doing business in China. So, Professor Mark Sepan was actually a senior vice president of IT in Lufthansa, and if I remember correctly, he was also Forbes 40 under 40. Yeah, so I attended both of his lectures, and the kind of experience he brings into the class, being a senior vice president at Lufthansa, I think that's truly unique, and I and the way he conducts the class, the way he embraces your input in the class, and he used to organize this very special thing at the beginning of the class where you can. So if I just take example of global strategy class, me and my friend we actually presented about India, what the business landscape really looks like in India, and I think that was a real value add for everybody sitting in the class, and all my other classmates also actually ended up doing that. I remember Roman presented about Zimbabwe, that what are the opportunities which are there in Zimbabwe and how we can do business in Zimbabwe. And then like people are coming and talking about different countries from where they're coming from. And similarly, we did the same thing in doing business in China, where people are presenting about different provinces in China and what's the government structure looks like and what kind of opportunities exist in those areas. And I feel that I like those are some really practical skills which I learned, and I think I can definitely take those skills back to my family business and implement that.
I like to share two things. Firstly, favorite class or professor, which is Rupert Younger. He did reputation and leadership, which is one of the best classes I've ever sat in my entire life. It really blew me away. Firstly, he's thought of every small detail of the class. So you make sure that the class isn't bigger than 40 people. That's his absolute limit. And the reason for that is he wants to have a very tight-knit, interactive learning environment. And you go through all the different sort of elements of reputation leadership. One of the key learnings I had is that, you don't own your reputation, others do, but you can influence it. And you'd go in thinking, well, I went in thinking that, okay, you do own your reputation, you can influence other people's opinions, but that's actually not the case. Your reputation lies with other people. And the way he introduces and explains all these concepts is all very real world specific. So it's not just, death by PowerPoint. Every single week he has some world-renowned business leader in his class, which you can talk to, which you can go, catch up for a coffee afterwards. Everyone from the ex-CEO of EasyJet to you guys might know Biz Stone, the co-founder of Twitter. Before he came in and present our class, I was sitting there and he walks in the back of the class and he sits next to me. And here's a guy who's like, co-founded this multi-billion dollar global tech company, and he's sitting right next to me going, "Hey Pratik, how's your day going?" So little things like that is just absolutely fascinating, and the way he ties in those real world examples with some of his key learning points is fascinating. I can't speak highly enough of that class. The second thing I want to share just on that is all sort of related is one of the best moments of the MBA. I think it was just before the New York elective. A bunch of us went and did a trip around Morocco together. So there's about 12 of us there, and we did like a desert safari in the Sahara. We went on camelback. We went to like this glamping experience, and we were there at like 10 o'clock at night after we had a nice cup of coffee around a bonfire, sang some music, embraced the local culture. We're lying there on a mat, all under the same blanket, all 12 of us, just looking at the sky, watching shooting stars, just sharing some of our life experiences. And that's some of the best way to get to know your classmates. And that was just a really special moment I'll never forget. One of the other many vlogs I've done as well on my social media channel, so you can check that out. But just a special moment I thought I'd like to share.
And one more thing I'd like to quickly mention is that don't think that professors are only available to you during the class. Professors are really approachable and you can reach out to them whenever you want. Actually, after this call, I'm going to meet one of the strategy professors, Tim Galpin. He's amazing. Yeah, I wish I could talk about a lot of professors, but I know we're restricted by time. But yeah, I want to discuss my idea with him, and he said that he can give me 1 hour, and I'm just going to meet him and chat with him and discuss my ideas and what kind of things I think I'll struggle with. So having said that, you can always reach out to your professors, not only for if you want to start a company, but if you have any questions around your career, because all of them have worked in the industry, they have tremendous amount of experience, and they can be really helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for sharing your thoughts, your wisdom, your advice, and thank you everyone for sending in your questions. Thank you for your patience as we kind of tried to get to all the questions as best we can. So some of you might be in early stages of just looking into MBAs. Some might be applying this week. Best of luck if you are. So we do have our stage 1 deadline this Friday, and then our stage 2 deadline is in November. We'll be holding an open day. It should be in November. It'll be up on the website in the next couple of weeks. So if anyone is travelling to the UK in November and can make it up to Oxford for the day, the open day is a really nice experience where you get to hear from students, have a taster lecture, have a talk with careers, have a workshop with them. And there's also a networking fair where you'll be able to meet staff from the Skoll Centre and from the Entrepreneurship Centre and really get a feel for a day in the life of an MBA student. And we're always adding different webinars, different events to our website, so definitely check those out. I'll send the recording round and I'll include a couple of things which hopefully will be helpful for you. And yeah, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us. I'll just pop the email address for our team in the chat for you all. It's just Oxford MBA, all one word, at SBS. So if you have any questions about the program, or if you're applying this week and have any last minute questions, feel free to get in touch and we'll help you as best we can. And thank you very much for dialing in, and thank you both for giving up your Monday and giving up your internship time. And yeah, thanks for dialing in, and we'll hope to see you in Oxford very soon.
Thanks, guys. All the best with all your applications.
Yeah, all the best with the application.